Have you ever heard of Wassily Kandinsky, Piet Mondrian, or Kazimir Malevich? They're often called the pioneers of abstract art, a revolutionary movement that changed art forever. But what if I told you that years before any of them painted their first abstract piece, a Swedish woman was already creating a vast, secret world of abstract masterpieces? Her name was Hilma F. Klint, and this is the incredible story of the true, forgotten pioneer of abstract art. Born in 1862 in Stockholm, Sweden, Hilma grew up in a family that was both intellectually curious and deeply spiritual. Her father was a naval commander and a mathematician, which might explain her later fascination with structure and cosmic order. From a young age, Hilma showed a remarkable talent for art. She enrolled at the Royal Academy of Fine Arts in Stockholm, one of the few art schools in Europe that admitted women at the time. She was a brilliant student, graduating with honors and quickly making a name for herself as a skilled painter of portraits and landscapes. Her early work was conventional, but beautiful, and she was able to support herself as a professional artist, a rare achievement for a woman in the 19th century. But behind the scenes of her public success, Hilma was living a secret life. The late 1800s was a time of immense spiritual searching. New scientific discoveries, like X-rays and electromagnetism, were revealing invisible worlds, and many people, including Hilma, believed that the spiritual realm was just as real and could be contacted. She became deeply involved in spiritualism and Theosophy, popular movements that sought to understand the deeper truths of the universe. In 1896, along with 4 other female artists, she formed a group called The Five. For 10 years, they met weekly for seances, attempting to communicate with higher spiritual beings they called the High Masters. They practiced automatic drawing and writing, letting their hands move freely across the page, believing they were channeling messages from another dimension. These sessions were a form of training, preparing Hilma for the monumental task that was to come. Then, in 1906, something extraordinary happened. Hilma received a commission from one of these spiritual guides, Amalil. She was tasked with creating the paintings for the temple, a massive series of artworks that would visually represent the invisible spiritual dimensions of existence. This was it. This was the moment abstract art was truly born. At the age of 44, Hilma A. Flint began to paint in a way no one had ever seen before. Over the next 9 years, she would create an astonishing 193 paintings for this series. These weren't just random shapes and colors. They were a complex visual language. She used vibrant, symbolic colors: blue for the feminine, yellow for the masculine, green for unity. She painted spirals to represent evolution, circles for the divine, and swan motifs to symbolize the ethereal. Her works explored a huge range of themes, from the dualities of good and evil, male and female, to the stages of life from birth to death, and the connection between the microcosm and the macrocosm. She created enormous canvases, some over 10 feet tall, filled with dynamic, swirling forms and geometric patterns that seemed to pulse with energy. She was working in complete isolation from the mainstream art world. While the male artists who would later be called the fathers of abstraction were still painting landscapes and portraits, Hilma A. F. Klint was charting the cosmos on canvas. Let's put this in perspective. Kandinsky's first famously abstract watercolor is dated 1910, but many scholars now believe he dated it retroactively, and his true breakthrough came around 1913. Malevich's Black Square was painted in 1915. Mondrian's grid paintings began to emerge even later. Hilma F. Klint was painting purely abstract, monumental works as early as 1906. She was years, even a decade, ahead of her time. So why have most of us never heard of her until recently? The answer lies in Hilma's own decision. She was profoundly aware that the world was not ready for her art. She knew her paintings would be misunderstood, dismissed as the eccentric creations of a mystic, rather than the groundbreaking art they were. She believed that only a future generation, one more spiritually and intellectually evolved, would be able to comprehend her vision. So she made a radical choice. She rarely exhibited her abstract work during her lifetime. In her will, she stipulated that her entire collection of over 1,200 abstract paintings and thousands of pages in notebooks must not be shown to the public until at least 20 years after her death. She passed away in 1944. At the age of 81, her revolutionary body of work locked away, waiting for the world to catch up. For decades, her wish was honored. Her nephew, Eric F. Klint, became the guardian of this incredible secret legacy. The collection remained almost entirely hidden from view. It wasn't until the 1980s, 40 years after her death, that the art world began to take notice. But even then, her ascent to art world stardom was slow. The established narrative was hard to change. It took another 3 decades for her to truly get her due. In 2018, a major retrospective of her work, Hilma A.F. Klint, Paintings for the Future, opened at the Guggenheim Museum in New York City. It became the most visited exhibition in the museum's history, drawing over 600,000 visitors. People lined up for hours to witness her vibrant, mystical, and powerful creations. The secret was finally out. The world, it seemed, was finally ready. Hilma A.F. Klint's story forces us to ask big questions. What is art? Where does creativity come from? And who gets to write history? She wasn't just an artist. She was a cartographer of the soul, a visionary who used paint and canvas to map a universe that most of us can't see. She believed her art could help humanity evolve, to understand its place in the cosmos. Today, looking at her paintings, you feel that power. They feel incredibly modern, vibrant, and full of life, as if they were painted yesterday, not over a century ago. Thanks so much for watching. If you were as fascinated by Hilma's story as I am, please hit that like button and subscribe for more deep dives into the hidden corners of art history. See you next time.